Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to New Forest Morph. It's Paul and Jared together today. Jared, welcome back into the facility. I hope you had a good day yesterday and your day off, and things went reasonably well, given the circumstances. We won't go there, says Jared. But yeah, I think a lot of people have been very grateful for the list that you produced, Jared, on the snakes available for September. And we also have some more coming through, but we've got 3 or 4 friends that are either coming to visit the facility to pick up some snakes. We put a few on hold back. Deposits are coming through now. So it's lovely to see that our friends in the community are supporting us in our hobby. And I think what's lovely, Jared, is we're building up these friendships. These are friendships for life, effectively. So I think it's lovely because we can help each other on the journey. We can buy and sell some snakes to each other. We can get involved in similar projects. We can support each other in the hobby. So when we set up this YouTube channel about 4 years ago, it was really hard to set it up and it was very slow progress. But we are moving towards the 2,000 subscriber mark now, Jared, and we're finding that quite a lot of our clientele customer base is coming off the media. Jared, you're posting on Instagram as well, and that's helping, getting inquiries from Instagram. So I think having a YouTube channel is really helpful because when people want to ask to see snakes, they can see the videos, they can see the movement of the snakes, they can see the cleanliness of the facility. And Jared, today we're going to be feeding our hatchlings, and you've got all the food laid out, and all the prey items that came yesterday are now on defrost, and we're going to be focusing on, I think there's about 20 hatchlings that are being assist fed, or was it 11? I can't remember what it was. What number did you say we had?
There's 14.
There's 14 that we are assist feeding right now out of 150. So 10% of our population is being assist fed at the moment. Now we're hoping with the new bedding and with the new smaller multi-rats that we can get those 14. If we get 3 or 4, Jared, that'd be successful. That's what we're hoping for, but we'll let you know how we go. How did you find the cleaning on the bedding today, Jared? You did a lot of bedding cleaning, and you made a couple of adjustments, because when you buy new bedding, it's like anything in life, you've got to try and work out how best to use it, and you're not necessarily going to be using it correct from day one. You kind of tweak your systems. So I was making the mistake while Jared's been away. Instead of actually, when I was changing the water bowls, I was pouring the water onto their bedding, thinking that would add the humidity up. But what I've forgotten is that happens with paper. It's good to do that because it dries up very quickly. But what Jared was explaining is that the cocoa acts as a sponge, and if you pour water out of the soiled water container onto the bedding, it then reduces the amount it can absorb from the snake.
If the bedding's dry, it's a good thing to do.
Yeah.
But when it's already got enough moisture in it, it then overloads it and gets it soggy.
Exactly. So I think what I've done is I've made the mistake of perhaps overloading it, because it's the first time I've really used cocoa husk, and so I've got to learn how to do it so we get a nice dry top to the bedding and the moisture is underneath. But what we are finding is that the snakes are pooing below the bedding, Jared, aren't they? And you're finding poos.
One of them pooed and then covered it up.
I think it's quite nice that they do that, but you've got to be aware of that because you don't want it sitting there. So Jared's changed a few today, and I think you're happy with how they're going.
Yeah.
And what else? You made that other adjustment. We've reduced the amount of cocoa husk going in, so it avoids it going into the water bowl.
Yeah.
And also we're trying to get the balance of the water levels correct, so that the snake themselves doesn't get covered in it all, but it's clean from the bedding. And I think the key, Jared, is not to have it too wet, because it will just cling to them.
Yeah.
So again, we're learning on this one. Now we will feed them tonight, Jared, and see how they go. But also last night there was some really interesting stuff going on with the genetics, and I think it was Ben, who's the doctor there at I think it's called RGI, who are the Rare Genetics Incorporation in the US. They're bringing down the prices of the sheds, Jared. So they're coming down in price. And Jared and I talked about it and we think, where is the genetic testing prices going to go? And we're hoping that it gets to the point where we get so confident doing the testing, shed testing, that the prices will drop and that you'll be able to test more of your animals for lower money as time goes on. And whether or not it gets to the point where AI can get involved and maybe help reduce the cost down even more, or whether you can actually buy software that allows us eventually to do our own in-house testing inside the facility. Now, Jared and I have an ultra scan that we can do our own scanning, and it's quite nice to be able to do everything in-house. I wonder whether we'll ever get to the stage where we'll be doing our own shed testing eventually, where you buy all the software to do it.
Or you have a little machine and you put the shed in there and AI will check it all out and tell you what you got.
It'd be nice if we ever get to that level, Jared. But I think at the moment it's still pioneering the testing at the moment. So we're grateful for all the companies that have done so much research and invested so much time. The academic universities that get involved is fantastic. So it's teaching us a lot. And Ben in his video yesterday was talking about the hypogenetic, Jared. And the hypogenetic basically is known also as the ghost or orange ghost. And we like the hypo gene a lot. We've got them running through quite a few of our collection. And the nice thing about it, it strips any dark or brown pigment away from the skin or the eye colour. And I think it's called, what's the technical term?
Melanin.
Melanin. So if the genetic doesn't allow the melanin to go to those areas, you end up with a snake when it sheds, which is virtually a clear shed. There's no mark on the shed, there's no pattern. There is a little bit, but Ben was explaining that we think that it is removing the melanin. He's saying it doesn't actually remove the melanin, it's saying that there's other genetics that actually transfer the melanin colour, the pigment, into the eyes, into the skin. And he was saying that there's some other adjustment in the genetics that doesn't allow it to travel to those areas. So the snake would have the facility to have the melanin, but it doesn't have the bridge to take it to those areas of the body, and that's why you have it. So he was just educating us and teaching us that the snake needs a couple of things that are not quite right with it to get the ghost effect. So I found that really interesting, and later, if we've got time, Jared, I'll show you a few combinations. Today we're talking about the hypo and the desert ghost coming together, and the hypo and other genetics coming together, and how we can use the hypo to more effect. So Jared, we spoke about the desert ghost girl that we've got, Isa, who's ready to be bred with. If you want to have a quick look at her, she should be in there to see whether she is in shed or not. So she's an Enchi desert ghost girl, and I believe that Isa is 11mm on her follicle size. So what we want to do is we want to put to her, potentially, we could put a hypo boy to her to get the double het hypo DG Enchis, couldn't we, Jared?
Yeah.
And the boy that we've got is Archie. Now we've sent off the shed tests, so hopefully we'll find out if he's carrying pied. But we could put the hypo boy. He's a fire hypo boy, isn't he? There he is. He's lovely.
He's not got fire. Has he got fire?
He's a fire hypo.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, he's not got
He hasn't got pastel.
pastel.
It would be nice to have pastel going into the DG because it makes it pop. But we have the opportunity to get some fire Enchi, double het, or possibly triple het, because if he's carrying pied, he might also pass the pied on. So that could be an option for Isa. So he's a lovely boy. You can just see how ghostly he looks. He's weighing about 900 grams. I think we could put him to several girls this year. But we want to get hypo and desert ghost together. I think it's a lovely combination. And I think in that combination they're saying things like pied are very pretty, but also black pastel or cinnamon can be very pretty when you put that into the hypogenetic, Jared.
And clown.
And clowns as well. So we've got to think about getting the hypo into the clown. So he could come in handy. We might put him to a clown girl and produce some double hets or triple hets. So there's an option. Anyone else that you would consider as a possibility for the DG, Enchi DG girl, Isa?
Clown pied with leopard and banana.
Right, so let's get Bingo. Let's have a look and see what he would do. So he's looking really cool at the moment, isn't he lovely? Isn't he beautiful, Jared? So if we used him as a potential breeder boy into the desert ghost, we could get triple hets with banana, Enchi, and banana Enchis are lovely.
And leopard.
And leopard, that sounds like a good call.
Mm.
So I think what we'll do is we'll shortlist these two boys to go to her. Now if you wanted to produce a visual desert ghost and then have a het recessive going in, we have got the boy which is called Tattoo, who's getting up to size now. So he could go to her, and that would give us visual desert ghost, Enchi desert ghosts. and it would also give us the het pied. So that basically puts the DG on another footing where you've got DG het pieds but with Enchi in as well. And then we've got two other Desert Ghost boys, Jared, which we could also use. So let's have a quick look at those. So we've got Bozo. Now we weighed him, he's coming in at about 400 grams. And he's a pastel, so that would give us the pastel going into the Desert Ghost.
And he's Het Clown.
He's also Het Clown, so what would that give us? That would give us effectively visual pastel Enchi Desert Ghosts, which would be pretty in their own right. And then half of those will be 100% Het for Clown. And that could be an interesting building block. And if we produce some girls, Jared, that would further the project. So we're not just dealing with double or triple hets for DG Clown, we've actually got a visual that is het for Clown as well, and we need to get some girls up, so that might be worth considering. I think DG Clowns are pretty.
We have got a big DG Clown, double het DG Clown girl coming
in October. Yes, we have. So we've got to bear in mind that we might produce some visuals there. So
yeah,
maybe we'll just park that idea for a second.
Get triples out of her, I think.
Yeah. I've also got a backup boy. Now I forgot to mention this, Jared. When I bought the Desert Ghost pied boy Tattoo, I also bought its sibling, because originally Tattoo was sold to us as a girl and then we sexed it and it turned out to be a boy. So we've ended up, because they were supposed to be partnering each other,
yeah,
but in the end we thought, you know what, we'll use them as a backup boy. We've ended up getting two boys in the end. But this guy here is about 500 grams now, Jared, but he's got the pastel. He's a DG het pied boy. So what we could do there is we could put him to the girl, and that would give us a pastel Desert Ghost, which half of them will be het for pied, and obviously Enchi will be in the mix as well. So there's another possibility. So he's a lovely boy. So we'll see where Tattoo goes. If Tattoo needs more time to mature and this boy's lock-in, we'll probably use him as the substitute. And that will mean that pastel goes in instead of the 100% het for pied. So there's a little bit of a trade-off there. So I think that's the options for the Desert Ghost girl. Now while we're on the Desert Ghost, Jared, let's just have a quick look at the het Desert Ghost girls that we've got and how we can use those best to effect. So we have got some girls that are doing particularly well. Ember and Vesta. Their follicles are
8 mil and 5
8
mil.
and 5 mil. So if let's have a little look at Ember. Let's see what we could do with her. She's a Fire Inchy het Desert Ghost. So we've got to think about who would we put to her. And she's about 1800 grams. So she's got the size in her. She's very pretty. You can see the big wide inchy headband on the side. So if we were to use our Desert Ghost boys, we've got 3 Desert Ghost boys, we could put the Tattoo to her. That would give us visual Desert Ghosts that'll have Enchi fire in as well, and they'll be 100% het for pied, so that could be an option, Jared. We could put the Desert Ghost pastel Desert Ghost het Clown boy. That will give us visual Desert Ghosts that are pastel, and that will give us Enchi and fire in the mix. So there'll be 3 incomplete dominants going into a visual Desert Ghost, 100% het for pied. That could be a good call. For Clown, so that could be a call too. Or we've got the Desert Ghost boy that's a pastel het for pied, so we could bring him into the mix too. So we have actually got 2 big girls. Vesta, similar size, she's got slightly smaller follicles, and we were just debating whether we wanted to make available some potential visual girls that we've got. So we're talking about the fire. Do you remember the het Desert Ghost that's also fire?
Yeah, Enya.
Enya. If you pull her out, we've weighed her and we checked her follicles. She's just a fire. Is she an Enchi or is she a fire?
She's an Enchi.
She's an Enchi. There's no fire in her. She's 1500. She's building nicely. She's only got 4mm follicles though, so she'll need some time. Now, we could keep her to make some further projects, but we discussed making triple hets with her. The problem with that is there'd be a lot of possibilities, so we thought maybe not. So we might make this girl available that's almost ready to go. And if anybody wants to get into the Enchi Desert Ghost project, perhaps hit us up and we can talk figures and prices on that, because we might decide to let this girl go, and she could go this season. So if anybody wants to get a clutch of eggs and they're prepared to pay us, maybe a couple of £100 for that, Jared, I think it might be worth considering selling her and then giving another breeder a chance to get into the hobby and project without waiting 3 years. She's 3 or 4 years old. She's at that pinnacle where she could be bred with, and she would produce eggs either this season or next season, hopefully. So we might let that one go, and starting to let go of some of the girls that we've been using and holding back just in case is another idea. And then the other thing I was going to say, Jared, is we've got a couple of het clown girls. One of them is a fire het clown girl. Now, she is Fern. I want to get fire into the clown project. So if we have a look at her, she's a good example of fire. She's very beautiful. She could go this season for us, but if we were to put our boy to her, Jared, have we got any visual clowns with lots of incomplete dominance that we could put to her? And which one would you go for?
Probably Hercules.
Hercules. So I think what we want to do is we want to produce some fire clowns that have got other genetics in. So we could use Hercules. Let's have a look at what's going on there. Isn't he beautiful? Look at that eye. Lovely, Jad. Lesser leopard, Enchi, pastel. So we'd get a really powerful clowns if we could get the fire in as well. So that might be a possibility. And then the other idea, Jared, is we're waiting for the results to come back from Monty, and we've got Finn as well, waiting for him to shed out. We could have a beautiful option here to put Monty to the fire girl, and that would give us fire gravels, which I don't think I've seen.
Yeah, pastel lesser fire gravel clown.
What do you think? Is that a possibility?
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, although we want to use him mainly for the highway projects, don't we?
Yeah.
So we'll see.
New breeder, so
we'll see how far he can be stretched, but he could be a possibility. And talking of using Monty, there is another girl which we've got, which is a yellow belly pied girl. In fact, we think we got two, Jad, and she is called Iggy. So here she is. Now she is a really good size. I don't know whether we did check her follicle size. Let me just have a look and see if we've got her on there. So we'll have to check her follicle size and see where she is.
I think we did it the other day, but it was so small we didn't even put it up.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. But she's carrying the yellow belly. Now, if you put the gravel clown to her, you could get highway double hets.
Yeah.
Which might be worth a call as well. So we're going to consider what we're going to do with Iggy if we can get her follicle sizes to go up. So I think that'll do it for today. There was actually, one other yellow belly that we've got to decide what we're going to do here, and that's Buttercup. She's a pastel yellow belly.
Should be even better for the highway.
Yeah.
The pastel I like pastel and highway myself.
So if we put the gravel boy to her, pastel highways, double hets for clown pied.
There'd be super pastel, lesser highways.
Wow. Is that
double het.
Is that a potential call?
Could be very good.
Right. So the key is to get that gravel clown proven out. If he does, it's all good news. And I think she's not given us a clutch for a couple of years. She's due to give us a clutch. Some of these girls are temperamental, some want to go, some do. She's big enough, but see whether we can get her follicle size up, Jared. I think we did test her again and she didn't have massive follicles. Okay. So I think sometimes when it comes to breeding, Jared, I think you've got to pair even below the 10 mil to stimulate them into feeding. I mean, they're both feeding.
Yeah.
In fact, they're both doing fine on the feeding front, but I think the hormone side needs to be developed. So when the stormy weather's coming, we've had a lot of rain this week, it's a good time to start pairing. But I'm thinking to myself, if we can get the sheds back with the right tests and we start putting a boy to them, that might stimulate their growth and they might start to cool more, they might start to develop. So I think sometimes you can start off thinking the skills follicles aren't big enough, but the very active pairing can stimulate the growth of the follicles. So I think don't worry if your girls are below 10. it might still be worth pairing them at 6, 7 or even 8, and you might find it might just kickstart them into gear, mightn't it, Jared?
Yeah.
And of course they follow the rhythm of the room, so once you've got a lot of pairs going and the hormones are fluctuating, then that stimulates everything and everything competes to breed, and that can sometimes make things happen. So our electrician has also come back, and we've got the new air filtration system that's going in, and we've got a price for that. I think it's going to cost us about £700, Jared, but that will be taking an inlet and an outlet on this wall here, Jared, with some ducting going off towards the fans. And I think today, because it's like very fresh outside and the wind is blowing, there's a lot more fresh air in the facility, plus that coupled with the absorbency of the cocoa husk has meant that the facility smells a lot clearer, cleaner. But I'm thinking with this new airflow system that we're bringing in, I'm pretty certain that we'll end up with a really, really good fresh facility, Jared, is what we're after. So the last thing I'll do is let's just have a look at yesterday's video with RGI and Ben. And I'll show Jared, he hasn't seen it yet, I saw it like yesterday, and I think a lot of the viewers out there will be aware of this, but there's an animal up here, Jared, which is, well, the video is called "The Hypo Ball Python Mutation Doesn't Actually Reduce the Melanin." And I think that's what we've all been thinking, that it actually doesn't reduce it. It doesn't mean that it still has it, but it doesn't actually get to the places it needs to get. So it needs to have some form of bridge to get there. So it's another part of the genetic that's at fault that's causing the problem. But it's not a problem because it's a beautiful problem to have, because outside of the wild looking snakes, Jared, everything is a mutation of the original wild snake.
Yeah.
So when you've got 300 plus different genetics, every genetic is a morph that is slightly defected. So there's beauty in defects, and I'm glad that's the case, because I think there's beauty in us as well with our defects, particularly me. Well, I'm not sure about beauty, but you know what I'm saying, Jared, is that there was a song that I used to really enjoy, which was "I Like Your Perfect Imperfections." I can't remember who it was from, but when we went camping down to Cornwall as a family, we used to listen to music on the way down. And
was it Frank? No.
Do you remember the song?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember who it is.
And he said, I like your perfect imperfections, and I can't remember the name of the song. If anyone out there can remember it.
It's called All of You, All of Me?
All of You and All of Me, that's it. I won't even try to sing it, but it's a beautiful song about enjoying the imperfections in us as humans, in our relationships. And I think, you know, sometimes we try and give each other some love and support, and people can look upon us and judge us for doing that. You're thinking, I wouldn't be doing that. But the reality is, I think to get the best and to encourage the best out of each of us, let's emphasize the positive, let's emphasize what's good, and maybe overlook some of the smaller problems. Obviously you can't overlook big problems, but some of the smaller issues that are a bit niggling, you sometimes have to overlook. But I think the bigger problems obviously have to be addressed. But I think in life, if we were expecting everyone to be perfect, we'd have no friends.
The song's called All of Me by John Legend.
Thank you, Jared. I'm glad that you were good on your research. So this is can you see the example of this beautiful animal, Jared? What I'll do is I'll just hit the lights. Now we've got here an example of a hypo, and I think I'll just see if I can get this to work.
Man.
Yeah, that's right up my alley. I love orange in pies, and that one, rainbow on top and banana in there. That's really cool.
Oh yeah, that's like an orange sherbet swirl. Is it sherbet or sherbet? I don't know. I can't read. It's fine.
Super OD inchy yellow belly banana hypo pied.
The snake looks positively edible. And we got a nice hypo chocolate. I think chocolate and hypo are both really nice together.
Like that.
That's a good nice gene combo. From wetter morph constrictors.
Beautiful.
All right, so let's talk about the mutation itself. Mr. Geneticist, take it away.
Yeah, so this is one. There's only one mutation that we test for, and that the other companies that do testing, as far as I know, there's just one that we found. It does seem like there are at least one or two other lines that are not very common. So really the vast majority of hypo ball pythons, whether they're called orange hypo, orange ghost, or hypo or ghost or whatever, Even the yellow ghosts from back in the day, I remember some people had yellow ghosts. They seem to all be the same -5 mutation. So there's 5 A's, T's, C's, and G's that have been deleted from the 8th exon in the MLPH gene. So it's a -5 deletion.
Mm-hmm.
It gives us that cool look that
Whatever
we
that
see
means.
in all these Hypo
Yeah.
ghosts.
Very cool. And so
This is a
the
good chat.
paper that it came from was this one, which I will also link in the description if you want to read it. What year did it come out? Because it's been a couple of years now, I think, right?
I think so. I think within the last year or two, something like that.
Yeah. So in each of these figures, like what are we looking at?
Yeah, so this is work done by Dr. Hannah Sadell and her students, again, at Eastern Michigan University. In A there, you can see a normal ball python and then what its shed looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And then in B, you can see a hypomelanistic or ghost ball python. You can see the reduction in the darker pigments.
Mm-hmm.
The hypo means reduction, and melanin is the dark pigment. So it's a reduction in dark pigment. It's hypomelanistic. And you can see that shed. There's very little pigment there. That's another way you can tell if an animal, if you're not totally sure, you can wait till they shed. And usually the hypo ball pythons, their sheds will be clear or almost completely clear. So
Very cool.
yeah, very interesting. And then in part C there, what the melanophyllin gene does, MLPH, what that gene does is it helps be part of this apparatus that moves melanosomes, or you can think of it as the dark pigment, the melanin itself. It helps to be able to move that dark pigment around in cells. And so if there's a problem with that green part there, that's the melanophyllin, then that way to move the dark pigment around gets messed up. So that's like, needing to have a car to transport you around, and then all of a sudden there's no car. You're not going to get transported. So that means that there's no dark pigment that's moved out into the tissues. And so we have that reduction in melanin just because it can't get transported out. That's the part that's getting
interesting.
Yeah, and then
Right, that's about it, guys. So hopefully that helps explain how hypos come about. Thank you very much to RGI and Ben and his partner. Thank you, Jared, for your support. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.